What? Bonus video on Sunglasses Friday? What? Shabbat Shalom, seekers. It is my great pleasure to be talking to you for a second time today because we've got two very important things to talk about. One we talked about earlier, that is remembering the Sabbath day. Do you remember? The second is to protect the Sabbath day. As you recall from several hours ago or several minutes ago or tomorrow, if you haven't watched the other video yet, when the Torah, that is the Hebrew Bible, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, when they describe the commandment that God gave us to make a big hairy deal out of the 7th day of the week, in the book of Exodus, God instructs us to Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, that is, remember the Sabbath day. And then 40 years later, after a trip across the wilderness, Moses said, hey, remember that time God spoke and everybody got freaked out because God talks loud, and gave us these 10 commandments and said, protect the Sabbath day. And nobody called Moses on it. Nobody was like, you're an old man and you forgot what God really said. Because the point of the 40 years in the desert was that everybody who was there died. Well, not everybody, like all the adults who were there died, and all the kids who were there were busy playing on their iPhones or something. So they're like, huh, what? Okay, yeah, protect. So rabbis throughout the ages have interpreted these two different versions of this utterance to encompass two different aspects of the observance of this 7th day, the day of rest. And we remember Shabbat by planning ahead, essentially, but we also protect the Sabbath day. And how do we protect the Sabbath day? By doing things, or rather not doing things, that might spoil the sanctity of rest on that day. This is where we get all of our traditions about ceasing from work or work-like activities. Jews and also some non-Jews who observe the Sabbath in a traditional way, not only will they take the day off of work, I wish that pilot would take the day off of work. Not only will they take the day off of work, but they won't take their work home with them. They don't do their taxes on the Sabbath day. They don't check their work email on the Sabbath day. Again, there's a wide variety of practice. Some Jews do this, some Jews don't. Some non-Jews do this, most non-Jews don't. But the idea is, if you want to observe the Sabbath in a traditional Jewish way, you stop work, you stop everything that looks like work. Let's say, for example, you're a professional trampoline tester. For most folks, trampoline on Shabbat, game on. Trampolines are fun and not a lot of work, unless you're an ER doctor. But if you're a professional trampoline tester and you jump on trampolines 6 days a week on Shabbat, because that's what you do. That's what you do all week, and you need to make this day special. Some rabbis might say, well, if you're jumping on it for fun and not getting paid to jump on it, that's okay. Again, Jews argue about stuff. Surprise! So if you know someone, or you are someone who observes Shabbat in a traditional way, you might know that there are lots of rules, things that you can't do, besides just going to your paycheck job. Let's say you're a blogger and you make money with your blog. Many Jewish bloggers don't post new content on Saturday. P.S. That's why I'm giving you 2 videos today, so that I don't have to post one tomorrow during the day. And there's other stuff you can't do. Many people don't write at all with pen and paper because it looks like the kind of thing people might do at work. It's like writing out receipts and things like that. You're not supposed to cook. I mean, you can make a salad, and you can do any kind of food prep that doesn't involve heating something up and changing its essential nature like you do when you cook food. That's why a lot of people will do a lot of cooking on Friday and have a big dinner on Friday, turning all the ovens off before the sun goes down. And you can reheat food that has already been cooked. And while some of these things seem onerous and obscure and a little bit ridiculous, it's all designed to preserve the calm, the peace, the sanctity of the Sabbath day for everyone. And in one version of this commandment, it says, you don't do any manner of work on this day, neither you, nor your children, nor your servants, nor your cattle. Nobody works. And so even though it might be nice to have fresh, hot food on a day that you're supposed to be celebrating with family and friends, if somebody in your house is supposed to cook to make that happen, they really don't get that day off, do they? So while all these things seem onerous, and for some people they feel kind of oppressive, I need to do this, I can't do that, it's Saturday, that's not fun. Many people don't drive on the Sabbath, and other people say, well, then I have to walk for 2 miles to go to the synagogue. How does that not work? All of these things are designed to help us protect Shabbat, and Shabbat is really designed to help protect us. It's to remind us that we are free people in control of our own sustenance, and it's also to remind us that The whole work of creating the world only took 6 days. Whether you believe that is literally true or not, even the rabbis of the Talmud thought, well, those days were not like our days. All that is to say that in a 7-day period, 6 days is enough to get everything done that you need to get done. And you should have 1 day of the week where you get just kick back and look out at the world and say, this is fine. This is sufficient for my needs. These people around me are sufficient for my relationship needs. I don't have to add to it in any way. I don't have to fix anything. Everything is just fine. And gosh, what if we could spend 1 day a week just kicking back and saying everything is just fine? And in order to do that, it's important that we put some safeguards around this day to keep us from lapsing into bad habits of, oh, I'm just going to check my email, which turns into, oh, I'm just going to answer this email, which means, oh, I'm just going to do this report for my boss. If you go into the day unplugged, you don't fall into that trap. And even back in the day, when God first announced this rule to people in the book of Exodus, there's another story related to that where the people were wandering through the wilderness, having left Egypt, not quite at the place where they were going, and they were like, we're hungry. Can you imagine? God says, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it rain food. When you wake up in the morning, there's going to be like dew on the ground, D-E-W. And that dew is going to have like a white, flaky consistency. And what you do is you gather that up, and that's your food. Because you're in the wilderness. There's no crops, no McDonald's, there's no Tel Aviv Airport kosher McDonald's. That food is just going to be lying down there for you to pick up, and you go gather that food. But on Friday, I'm going to make it rain twice as much food. So when you wake up in the morning, there's going to be twice as much food lying on the ground, and you gather twice as much food so that on Saturday, you can chill. On Saturday, you can eat leftover rain ground food. And that, my friends, is why you get 2 videos on Sunglasses Friday. Not that I'm God, making it rain YouTube videos. Everybody knows God prefers Facebook. So that you can get all the learning done in 6 days, I get all the teaching done in 6 days, and tomorrow we can just chill. If you do want to hang out with me tomorrow, I'll be leading services at Burbank Temple Emmanuel, and you are more than welcome to come join me. We have a great time. We sing, we learn stuff. We sing together, we learn stuff, and then afterwards we have lunch. And not wilderness ground food either. It's like tuna salad and cookies, and all are welcome. One of these days, I hope you'll reach out and pray with me at my synagogue. We have a lot of fun, and we do some hardcore relaxing. One more thing. Once again, I got so excited about protecting the Sabbath day that I forgot to remember something. In the last video, I told you to click on a link in the description of this video to see a graphic representation of what it means to remember Shabbat. This time, I'm going to tell you to click on a link in the description for a graphic representation of what it means to protect Shabbat. This is some fine visual work done by my talented wife, Cara Carrier, who is a visual practitioner for Firebird Consulting, and she created this infographic for the Miller Introduction to Judaism program, a really fine program that gives you kind of a one-on-one overview of what it means to be a Jewish person, live a Jewish life, and to understand the Jewish culture, history, and tradition. One aspect of that is remembering Shabbat. Another aspect of that is protecting Shabbat, and she made an infographic for both of those things. So click on that link and you will have a picture of what protecting Shabbat looks like. Check that out. Let me know what you think. I'll hand over any good feedback to Cara, any bad feedback. You just keep that to yourself because it's Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, friends.